Welcome everyone to History Pitch. It's History Pitch 16 and this is the 31st, is that right? No, the 21st day of March 2013, and very, very, very sadly this is our last History Pitch show. 1, 2, 3. Aww. And in the recording studio, we have Josie and Artemis and Jagvir and Claire Kelly, oh my god, and the Uzo, and Tavinda, and moi, your very own host. And what happened today in history, guys?
In 1871, Stanley went to find the missing Livingston.
Stanley left.
Yeah, to find Livingston.
So this is Mr. Livingston. Apparently he was an awful man, Stanley.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's good. Okay, what else happened?
I actually came.
Claire Kelly, come here.
Okay.
Claire Kelly has done her homework.
I have. I did it this morning. So, in 1804, the Code Napoleon was adopted in the French civil law, which kind of unified the set of law in France.
That is incredibly important.
It is.
This is like the foundation of all European law.
Pretty much.
To this date.
Pretty important document. So it had a few concepts like the freedom of religion, the separation of church and state. But one thing it didn't do was give women anything. So in the code, men could, if they found their wives sleeping with another man, kill their wife. But if women killed their husband, then they could be tried for murder. Pretty backward step, I think.
That's a backward step. I think that's a retrograde. So much for the universal rights of man.
Exactly. 1963, Alcatraz was closed.
Alcatraz was closed. And Ben is in the house. Hey! Ben, we're live. We're doing This Day in History.
Brilliant.
Excellent. So take a spot on the floor. And sorry, so Alcatraz was closed, you said, Claire?
It was. Yeah, after 29 years of holding the most notorious criminals, such as Al Capone, who was one of them.
This is the island, San Francisco?
Yeah, supposedly inescapable, but a few people did escape. Can't remember who.
It's not that far off the coast.
No, you could swim it.
You could swim it totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. What else do you have?
1999, Pickard and Jones became the first to circumnavigate the Earth in a hot air balloon, which is pretty cool.
What year?
1999.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's not very long ago.
No, it's not.
You'd think that's a 19th century kind of vibe.
Well, yeah. They ended up in Egypt after travelling 45,000 kilometres. So.
It didn't take them 80 days.
No. 21 days. 20 days.
20 days.
Almost 20 days, yeah.
This is excellent. Okay. And do you have anything?
I have a few more, but not as interesting.
All right.
1933, the construction of Dachau, the first Nazi concentration camp.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Which became the prototype for all the others.
This is our regulation Nazi fact.
Yeah, got to have a Nazi fact in there.
Yeah.
Oh, 1871, Bismarck was appointed Chancellor.
Oh, right. Good.
It's quite a good day in history.
It's called 21st of March. Why is this? It's like a slow day in the electoral cycle, and Artemis dances towards the microphone.
Buck was born.
Buck was born.
I'm very happy.
We're going to put a musical interlude here. And we're back.
Yes, this is the voice.
This is the radio
after
voice.
Yeah, no, after Bach. It's civilized.
Yes.
So that was St. John's Passion from
The New College Choir recording.
That was excellent.
Tenor voice was going to be sung by I can't remember what his name is.
Oh, yeah. He's excellent. I believe he's one of the best.
Internationally reputed.
Oh, yeah, of course, tenor. Of course.
So back to history. To history. What did we do? What else happened? Kelly, I think you said it's International Down Syndrome Day today.
It is.
Artemis. And anyone else? No. Okay. So I hope you're all as sad as I am, because we're going to go now to a person who is as sad as I am, which is our very best friend, Erica Hanna. Here we go. Erica. Good morning, Erica.
Good morning, Thompson.
How are you?
I'm very
well, actually. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Do you know this is our final history pitch?
It's quite sad, isn't it?
I'm finding it quite sad.
Yeah.
Once a week for the last 16, I think we might be on history pitch 16.
Wow.
16 or 17 weeks. I've called you.
Exactly. I really, really hope this will be some sort of niche, cult, have a cult following in years to come when we're famous.
Yeah. 4 people will say, actually, I listened, but 400 people would claim to have listened.
Exactly. We'll be just like the Stone Roses when we redefine history.
Exactly like the Stone Roses. I'm not sure how we've redefined history. I talked to Simon earlier, and I decided that there was actually a competition going on between his attempt to make social history happen and your attempt to make cultural history happen out of every little piece of fact. It's the great social versus cultural history fight of the 90s.
And I wonder who won.
Well, yeah, that's up to Ethel and our listeners, isn't it?
I think I did. I think sometimes Simon lacks the ability to historicise, which I find deeply problematic.
Ooh.
I cheese.
Oh, jeez. I mean, that's quite devastating. I wonder what he would say about you. In fact, he did say it about me. He just, he will come, listeners, very soon. We'll play his last episode. He just thinks that I'm not interested, like I linger. I'm not even a cultural historian.
No, you're not. Listeners, she's not. We try with her.
There's a bit of my acknowledgements of my book where I say, and thank you to Erica Hanna, Frances Flanagan and Rob Priest for continuing to talk to me about cultural history.
We've worked so hard.
Even though I'm not really one.
We know that. We do know that.
My students don't. I think they think I don't believe in knowing things. That's what Simon accused me of.
I really don't.
I
know. But I think, to me, we've been like a radical post-feminist in our time.
We have been a radical post-feminist. If that could be on my gravestone, I would be happy.
Yeah, exactly. Because the hectoring, bullying style in which Melvyn Bragg pushes at the facts of the past, when he says, give me the 3 most important effects, tell me the 3 most important figures in the Industrial Revolution. We don't do that.
No, and then he does this other thing, which I'm not doing now, although I might be interrupting you, where he goes, no, move on. We need to get forward in time.
Exactly.
We need to press on. What's on this sheet? Like, he's very linear in his...
Exactly, he's very linear. And, not only do we let debate flow, let different ideas in, but we, appreciate and let breathe the inherent malleability of the past.
Yes, we do. That's beautiful. We let breathe the inherent malleability of the past, Erica.
Exactly.
But we interrogate the means by which we know the past.
Exactly. Always.
Always. The apparatus of knowledge.
Well, even
drunk in the night.
I know, and we are sober right now, which is good. But, even... the radio-ness of what we're doing is central. And, that's us being cultural historians.
Let's talk about
our
that.
medium.
Yeah. And why is that important?
Because there's certain ways in which we can communicate via the radio shapes what we can say. So the content is the form. I know this is an obvious thing to say, we might as well say it. We have no visual images. There's no visuality whatsoever.
Yeah.
So this is it's all Hayden White.
It's all Hayden White. Yes. History like Hayden White would write it.
This is exactly what we're doing.
We are the most important historians of our generation.
Easily.
No, but this is one thing. It's a very intimate form. I think I said this with Rob Priest earlier, that this kind of whispering in somebody's ear that the radio is. I woke up this morning and the Today programme was shouting at me. George Osborne's voice came into my head. I didn't want that first thing in the morning.
And then I touched you.
You touched me. Really? Ethel, don't get the wrong impression here.
Do you think there's an intimacy to the radio which other media lack?
Yeah. I mean, look, reading has a certain intimacy too, but it's a different. You're much more active when you read, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think radio is the future then?
I do, because I think I think radio won't die. Of all the media that come and go, radio won't die because it can be there in the background when you're washing the dishes with your 2 children, or when you're driving your truck across the highway, or in a community. It can be going on in the background in the cafe. I mean, these are not things that, I mean, it's sort of half true of television, but you wouldn't want your truck driver watching CNN as he was driving across America.
Very true. Very true. It's the future. The future is you doing radio history.
Yeah.
But just to a bigger and bigger audience.
Bigger audiences. This is where it starts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you were here.
But you know, what's
You were here at the beginning.
Exactly. What's nice about it, like, is the way you could fake all this. You know, like, you could fake sound effects and things, but you don't, you know, like...
But that's a really interesting point, right? The authenticity of what we're doing, and does that matter?
Yeah. Yeah. And people in radio take this very seriously, right? Like, they actually go to sort of towers in Germany to record the wind whistling across the tower, you know, when they're talking about the history of the Habsburgs, for example. Like, this is a big part of radio, right? That sort of authentic oral experience.
Oral experience. Yeah. I wonder why that matters. I mean, I like what we're doing here as a kind of a very embodied activity. Mm-hmm. You know, it relies on us speaking in a sort of shared space, even if that shared space is a telephone, and it's timely. In a way, we're capturing time, and I guess perhaps that's what happens with the wind too, in a way that other kinds of media, like books, aren't. The thing about the book is you can put it down again and take it up whereas radio's not quite like that. It's very, you know, there's a pause, and that's the worst thing that you could want on the radio. But I'm getting a bit obsessed with the embodied action at the moment.
But this is really interesting, especially the whole, like, content and form thing, because if the one thing we have as historians that unifies us as historians is a sensitivity to temporalities, the fact that history actually... The fact that the radio puts you into a time and you can't put it down is, like, it's a really, really interesting way of thinking about it.
And in doing that, though, this is, I mean, you know, the spatial turn is old, but it also puts us into a space, right? Time is captured when it's embodied.
Oh, nice.
It is nice. That's nice. And that's back to your point about form and content. That's how knowledge gets made, always in this time and space and place specific context.
Yeah.
Always. And what we do sometimes, I think, as historians, is disembody and decouple form from content.
Yeah.
And we need to put that form back, whether that's the kind of bleeding body or the fatigued body or the tired body or the joyous, you know, like... That's what I think.
Yeah, it's great. So that's what we're doing, Anna.
That's what we're doing here.
Radical post-feminist.
Yeah, radical... RPF. EAOT. What is it?
Yeah. RPF IoT.
Well, Erica, I'd like to thank you for a wonderful year.
Yeah, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been great. Mwah.
Mwah.
And hilariously, I left the echo effect on. Echo. Reverb. So that sounded like Erica and I were having a very important conversation about radio in a church, which is in keeping, given it's the Bach birthday week. So we're back now here. Now, who's done things? Do you have a beard or a babe?
Yeah, but do you know what we've done all this series? We talked about other people and other people's lives, but we've never spoken about you.
Oh my God!
How has this happened?
That's the point of being the one that asks the questions, that you get to hide behind them.
I'm going to flip it this week. So
I forgot
Ethel,
about this.
We're going to find out who Tamsin thinks she is.
Okay.
So this is not Beard and Babe.
It is babe.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Mine.
Yeah, but have you prepared one? In case that doesn't work. You know.
Yeah,
What are you saying?
I've got someone.
Okay.
I've got a beard and now we've got a babe, so we've got both.
Good.
So,
All right.
Go on,
Okay.
Tamsin.
So this is going to be the Who Do You Think You Are family history segment.
uh-huh.
Okay. So guys, take the chair.
So if, people haven't clocked on quite yet, you're Australian. We'll hear that.
I do have permanent residency in Britain, thanks to your... Yes, I was born
about that.
in Australia, that's right.
So do you want to tell us how your family moved to Australia, or how your ancestors
Oh
ended
yes,
up
were
there?
they convicts? How do you feel about that?
Unfortunately, they weren't convicts. That would have been quite good. No. Well, you can kind of tell my family history is written in my name, which is Tamsin Peach, Pietsch. And which part of the world does that come from? Silesia. Good. I did mention that once in a seminar, which you remembered. Very good. That is a question on the first year exam. No, it's not.
Where is the lecturer from?
So the Peaches were part of these German migrants that moved to Australia between the 1840s and the 1880s, really. But my lot came out really early on, about 1850, when they were sort of fleeing the early processes of Prussian unification. And they were these sort of religious peasant nutbags who, basically,
Were they skilled in any way? Did they...
No, they were farmers. But the Germans filled a really interesting role in South Australia because they became the artisan class. So, they had they grew foods and they, many of them were silver workers, although mine were sort of just peasant farmers. But that was a skilled occupation to know how to farm in early Australia. And so that's where most of them came from. And then they sort of spoke German for the next 100 years.
So they didn't interact... I mean, how did they interact with the British there?
They didn't really.
Not at all. So they just lived in isolation in their own German community.
My grandmother, I think, spoke German as her first language. It's a bit weird. But then my grandmother married a Methodist.
Ooh.
Who's from England, and his lot came out from Devon to be corn. They were miners, and they came to be to mine the copper mines in South Australia. There was a mining boom, very brief, in the 1850s, and then they basically dispossessed the Aboriginals and set up a farm, which we only just sold this year, and.
Wow, so you've had an ancestral farm.
Sort of, yeah. But when they went to sell the farm, there were no title deeds. Because they'd never bought... Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Massively dodgy. Anyway, so that's where Tamsin comes from, because Tamsin's well, it was a Cornish name. Actually, there's a lot of Tamsins as a consequence in South Africa, where the miners also went, and there's not very many in Australia. Yes, Jagveer.
Your ancestors spoke German. Can you?
Ein bisschen. I can. Ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch. Ich habe Deutsch in der 12. Klasse. No, I can't really. But I'm learning German now.
Did your grandmother try and teach you German?
No. There was a real incentive at that point on integrating. And, so I guess we were the sorts of... Now you kind of wish that had happened. But we learnt at school, and it was... all the names of all the people in our community are Schneider and Schiller and Fitzner and, all these German names. So it's very omnipresent as a kind of cultural context. But, So I've just started lessons at the Goethe Institute. Yeah.
Awesome.
With all the German names, does that make, the First World War and the Second World really awkward?
It makes it massively awkwardo. In fact... So there are all these German towns. Harndorf is the most famous in Adelaide, near where I grew up. And their names were changed in the First World War. Many Germans were interned in concentration camps in Australia in the First and Second World Wars, and people changed their names, and so it was actually quite a problematic time. Good question. Yes.
Can you guess what would have happened to them had the Germans, or in your case, the Japanese, won the war?
Oh, I don't think. The Second World War, had the Japanese won the Second World War, well, we would probably be massively integrated into Asia more than we are now. I don't know what would have happened to the Germans. They probably would have been fine.
Actually, it's more the case, I think the Japanese wanted, rather like the Chinese do now, Australia as an economic concession. So Hitler's then plans was, because he didn't want the white people massacred, was to take them all, because they were of Germanic stock, and put them in Russia because he was settling it with Germans.
from Australia. Hitler had a plan for Australia.
Yeah,
I don't
no,
think...
think about 80% of the people there still...
Is this really true, Jagvir? Is this another Jagvir fact?
Is this just things I stumble across?
Okay, well, I like the idea that Hitler had a plan for Australia, and I'm totally going to find out whether that's true. I suspect it's not, but I like the idea. There were some Nazi collaborators in this German... I mean, that was the big fear, but it was also true. There's this great guy called H.H.L.A. Bros, who is... I think he's great. His life is not uninteresting. He is part of the German community in South Australia, and he's very good at physics, and he's trained by W.H. Bragg, who is a Nobel Prize winner in 1910, and he wins a scholarship, Rhodes Scholarship, and comes to Oxford in 1914. Starts at university here, and he goes to visit his relatives in Germany in the summer of 1914. Not a really good time to be in Germany, and so war breaks out and he gets interned because he's a British citizen, and he spends the war in this internment camp where he translates Einstein's theory of relativity for the first time into English, which is quite amazing. And then after the war he's released and he comes back to Britain and he finishes his degree and he becomes professor of physics at Nottingham, and he starts starts having an affair with the wife of the bishop, which doesn't go down very well.
Fascinating stuff.
So he gets kicked out of Nottingham and he goes back to Australia. And in Australia, in Sydney, he's got a job at Sydney University. He starts saying all these things about this great guy in Germany that's making all the trains run on time. And then war breaks out. And he gets interned again, this time for being a German. So the poor guy, look, it's a good story.
No, it's a good story, it's a long story, and this is who you think you are.
And then he goes mad. Well, you should interrupt me and ask a question.
I'm going to ask, why are you a lecturer?
Why am I a
How did that happen? Did you want to be a lecturer, or what? How did that come about?
I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up, guys. Like,
The eternal question.
The eternal question. Yeah, you don't need to know what you want to be when you grow up. On one hand, I'm a history lecturer because I think ideas matter. I really like talking about ideas, and this is one place where I get paid to do that. No, serious. And there are very few places in life that institutionalise personal relationships like this, and that's good. That's really humanly important. And I can talk for a long time about why universities matter. But I kind of, on the other hand, have sort of stumbled into it because I used to work... I used to be many things. I used to be a travelling salesperson.
What? Selling what?
How have you never told us that?
No one ever asked.
What were you selling?
Books. I had a big black Falcon and I drove around Australia selling books.
Wow.
Yep. I also worked in a dodgy Christian bookshop, which I called Dodgy Fox, for obvious reasons. I did many things. I was a flower deliverer. And
Are these kind of part-time student jobs or just temping?
Well, the Christian shop was like inspired. She wanted to be there.
I did that for a year. And
Do you have
then
any pictures from that?
probably. And then I became a. This is what really changed my life. A speechwriter and an aide to the governor of Victoria, which is one of the states in Victoria.
Political aid.
Yeah, he wasn't. He's the Queen's representative, so he wasn't party political, but he had a quite important ceremonial and constitutional and community role. So I did everything with him, like for 20 hours a day for 2 years,
Oh gosh.
which was good. It was amazing actually, and I was really good at it. And in the course of that time, one of the things I had to do, many funny stories. I had to organise the visit of the President of Greece, which was comedic. I got proposed to by one of the security guards, the Greek president. But I had to run the scholarship program called the Rhodes Scholarships, and the Rhodes Scholarships are a big deal in Australia and America and
And
elsewhere.
then you won one, didn't you?
And then I was like, I can bloody do this. These guys are losers. I can do this. So I applied for one and got it, which was really good. And then I came to Oxford, and then I kind of did a master's degree, and I was like, and they were like, here's some more money. So I did a PhD, and then someone gave me more money. And so I was like, oh, okay, I'll do a postdoc.
Well, if you married the president, No, you wouldn't have money now.
It was a security guard.
Yeah.
So she would have
She
been
would have no money.
in the Greek countryside somewhere.
That's nice.
Yeah.
We're Christians and we're selling books. I mean, you could have had your chances
right
there.
here.
You're a theocracy. So that's how I became a lecturer. But I actually do believe in it, and I think it's good. I don't know. Ideas matter, and we don't let them matter.
So what about the Goethe Institute? When did you start there?
The Getty
The
Institute.
Goethe.
The what?
The Goethe.
Gettysburg, Goethe.
Oh, the Goethe. I started. Sorry.
I don't have the German pronunciation.
Oh,
No, it's the accent.
This is a bit of my life I didn't know about. It's wonderful. Only just the start of this January. Like, I think we've had 5 classes.
A11
Yeah.
with?
I did 5 years of German in school, and I had to sit the test, and they put me in uber beginners class. Like appalling.
Rubbish.
How does the little lecturer in you feel when you have to get taught by someone else?
It's hilarious because I'm doing it with my friend Ludovine. Hi, Ludi, who is a lecturer in history as well. And
What a teacher.
we obviously compete to be the coolest in the class.
You bring the teacher apples.
Ludi is much more dedicated than me. I'm just relying on sheer personality to get me through. But we are cooler than everyone else. We have a friend, Lara, who we've let into our group.
Ooh. So it's the two of you and Lara.
You're like the mean girls in school.
No, we're not. We're very nice. Some of the other people are a bit mental, but some of them are lovely, and it's very fun. And Uli, our teacher, is great.
Okay.
And I appreciate the challenges of teaching to a diverse ability range, because there's real diverse ability range, and she does a good job of balancing that out. And she has the coolest technology in the world, which is this whiteboard that you write on, and then it's a computer screen, and then it prints out. It's just amazing.
Is it a smart board?
It's a smart board.
Yeah.
We have 10 years
in
behind.
school.
Yeah.
Did you?
We've all grown up with these things.
What are you like? What are you
When we
like?
first got them, teachers were all fascinated, and all we did was just draw pictures and print stuff out for the
Yeah.
sake of it.
Yeah, that's what I want to do.
You can do it. Go up to the board and
Write your name, everyone.
Yes,
You
you
can
can
do
do it
that.
on the computer screens here in the lecture rooms. They've got the computers, they've got pens on the back, and you can draw on them, and it shows up on the screen
All this time.
all this time.
And now you finish lectures.
Yeah.
Oh, she will stay over time tonight.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Just before you leave.
So any other questions?
Yes. How old are you?
I was born in 1978, which means I'm nearly 35. It's my birthday in 2 weeks' time.
Shall we sing happy birthday for you?
Yeah, totally.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear me. Happy birthday to you. Yay, thanks, guys.
Burn your 35 candles now.
Yeah.
So has it been 35 happy years?
Well, some of them have been happier than others. Yeah, it's not. Life's not.
Your best years have obviously been here with us.
Obviously. Actually, I know this seems impossibly far away for you all, but like turning 30 is one of the best things that ever happens. You just kind of go, I'm not interested in like pretending and like having to do what I think I should do. Now I'm like, it's fine.
Liberating.
It's liberating, yeah. I can be a nerd and that's totally fine. So the last few years have been good actually.
You going to miss England?
Don't know. I feel very anxious about moving back to Australia because I'm moving back to Australia, listeners. I'm moving to Sydney for 3 years where I've got a fellowship.
More money thrown at you.
More money thrown at me. This is what happens, you see. You like...
You
never
exceptionally lucky in the...
But you never decide to do...
Yeah.
Like, it's... I'm not sure whether I've decided to do this or whether...
You could have stayed here. Of course you decided to do it.
That's true, but I have whether to decide to be an academic or whether just
it
people just keep...
sort of just happened.
Yeah, but that's fine. I could have stayed here. And in fact, Brunel have kept my job for me, so I will
be coming back in 3 years' time.
Because you're awesome. They don't want to lose you.
Exactly. You could talk to the vice principal.
She's... Okay, I'm not going to say anything about her.
That's the vice chancellor. Yeah. So, I don't know, because I've been here for 10 years. Half my life is here. I know, and I don't know what it's... I've never lived in Sydney before. I don't know what it's... Australia's about to, like, get the biggest loser of a prime minister in the world.
There's still Greece and Cyprus. You can always count and ask for those
And
things.
Italy.
And Italy, yeah.
Well,
Come on, let's try.
Italy gives you the entertainment factor.
You can have
Yeah.
tons of jokes out of Italy
I
and
have a good
Russia.
Australia fact. It's the only continent that doesn't have an active volcano. So that's one thing you're not going to die of in Australia.
That's
What about
good.
New Zealand, which is
There's
nearby?
other...
I don't know, but Australia is... It must do. Australia's the only
No,
one.
New Zealand has lots of volcanoes.
Yeah.
That's why the mud bubbles. Okay, we're going to take a brief break from me. I'm sure there's more me we can come back to, but I'm going to play Simon. Hello, Simon.
Hello, Tamsin.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Much better than I imagine you were after the last session.
Yes, but that made for such good radio. Not. We... do you know this is our last history pitch for this year?
If people were able to see this on a webcam or something, they'd see that I was crying. Just one tear going down my cheek.
He does have feelings,
Yeah.
listeners. He has feelings. So on this last show of the year, which fills my heart with sadness, I'm going to let you talk about whatever the hell you want.
I want to talk about the spirit of 1945.
Oh, is this like the spirit of Christmas, but different?
I would say enormously different from the spirit of Christmas, yes.
Why is it different than... What is the spirit of 1945? Why do you take...
It's a documentary by Ken Loach.
Ah.
I think if a child got a Ken Loach documentary for Christmas, they would be very disappointed.
It's better than nothing. If you're Tiny Tim. So 1945, we're arguing about this because...
It's in the news, and there's something to argue about.
What position are you taking? Are you the Tory or the left or the right version of history?
Neither?
Ah, both.
No, neither.
So sketch out for our listeners what option A and what option B is, and why you've gone for option C.
Well, I mean, if you get people talking about it as they do in the documentary, it's this idea that Britain won the war by coming together, so now let's win the peace by staying together and building a welfare state and actually building, to some extent, a socialist commonwealth. Whereas the Conservative view is Britain could not afford this. They agree that this was built, this socialist commonwealth, but Britain could not afford this. That Britain had to kind of live within its reduced means after the war. And the payoff for this was the 70s with strikes and all kinds of stagflation, and then you had to have Thatcher coming in to save the day. So it's a similar timeline, just a different interpretation of it. So 45 good, Thatcher bad, 45 bad, Thatcher good.
And why? Okay. These are narratives sketched out for our readers, depending on whether they read the Telegraph or the Guardian. Why do you take issue with both of them? And what's option C?
Option C is to recognise that both Labour and the Conservatives trapped the British people. The British people did not trust either one of them and didn't want what they eventually got given.
What did they want? Does the electorate know what they want? Isn't that the job of our politicians?
Well, that's intriguing. That's intriguing, Tamsin. Your true colours are coming through here.
No, totally.
Yeah. Is this what you do when you go to your really important conferences to talk about the future of higher education? You go, you don't know what you want, little people.
What a speech should be. A speech should be an embrace, right? It should reach out and envelope people in a story that they can place themselves in, but they didn't know that they were necessarily part of before they heard it.
Envelope? Is that a new term, or do you mean envelope?
Envelope.
Yeah, you said envelope.
Oh, well, I also say hyperbole.
Wow, that sounds fantastic. That's just like a science fiction American football match, probably played by robots on Mars.
The Hyperball.
Well, okay. So if Gallup polled people in the months before the election what they would like from the peacetime government, and they wanted the coalition to continue, and more than that, they didn't want that coalition to be headed by Attlee. They didn't want that coalition to even be headed by Churchill. The most popular choice to lead a peacetime coalition was Sir Anthony Eden. And yet they were not given that choice. The Labour Party insisted on fighting the election as an independent party and pushing ahead with its programme.
Are you saying
and in the circumstances...
Sorry, you're like advocating direct democracy here, which is totally fine. But really, you want to go down that path?
I'm not. What I'm saying is that the people were pushed by the parties to make a straight choice. It's Labour or Conservative. And both Labour and Conservative played on this again and again. So if you're a Liberal voter, many of them went Labour because they felt, well, Labour are the ones who I can trust a bit more to implement Beveridge's reforms. You know, even communist voters were encouraged to vote Labour because the choice was seen as being between Labour and Conservative. So if you talk about the spirit of 45, what did the people want? You know, the people did not want a Labour majority government. After the election, shortly after the election, polling was done again, and something like 58% of people said it was a bad thing. You know, the victory for the Labour Party in that scale was a bad thing. So rather than kind of getting the bunting now, as is often presented in the documentary, they were concerned about this.
The British people did not get... What? Yeah, I know. I'm gathering my forces.
Yeah.
The British people did not get an election during the war, did they? Unlike the Americans.
They didn't get elections. They didn't get elections since 1935. Also, right. As you're right, lots of Commonwealth countries actually did vote.
So, the British people had been used to getting something that they didn't want for quite a long time, and you're saying they wanted basically to continue with a version of what they hadn't wanted for the last 10 years, or they hadn't expressed a desire for the last 10 years, but that's actually what they wanted, based on Gallup polling.
You can argue that, but partly you're looking at it the wrong way. Partly that's to do with cynicism. So even during the war, the polling showed that only 1/3 of the population, so they're fighting the Nazis, they've got Churchill as Prime Minister, they've got Attlee as Deputy Prime Minister, and they choose to say to Gallup, 1/3 of them say, we trust politicians. And the rest of them don't. 1/3 say that politicians are only out for themselves. This is during the war. They don't care about the nation, they're out for themselves. Or another third say they're out for party advantage. They didn't trust the political parties.
But that seems pretty damn standard. I mean, I don't know. If you took a poll today, I don't think the percentages are going to be massively different. But in fact, the profession that is most trusted are academics, horrifyingly.
That's the key thing, Tamsin. You kind of make a point for me that people would say the same sort of thing now.
But
great, but don't make out the people in 1945 to be these heroes who were sitting around talking about politics and were really cared about what was going to happen to society and were embracing socialism.
Okay, so what you're taking issue with, well, this is fine. I think we can probably agree, is the kind of crafting of a narrative.
Yeah.
Of 1945, and. Well, obviously, this is serving present political ends.
Well, I think people love to kind of say, we're in the 1930s now, for all kinds of reasons. This is the 1930s. And so how does the 1930s end? Well, it ends with 45 to some extent. So people are sort of saying, look, why are we not getting more het up? Why are we not thinking there's possibilities here? Why are we got trapped into this, we're all in it together line?
Well, the people peddling the we're all in it together line are the opposite side of politics, then.
Yeah, well, it's interesting as well. That line comes out of the Blitz. So there's different attempts to take the spirit of the Second World War. So, support David Cameron in his Churchillian form and we'll muddle through. Alternatively, we need to embrace a kind of new 1945.
Don't you think? I mean, I think this is not off topic either, that instead of looking to the past as a kind of program for the present, which is sort of what we're talking about now, some of this is about a nostalgia for a time where the choices seems more clear. That's the story, right? Not that they were more clear, as you've pointed out, but it's a nostalgia for a world in which the options seemed evident, which we've been told the options were evident, and that's what we're anxious about: a complex, intertwined, stuffed up financial circumstances which we see no clear route out of. And 1945 looked like a set of choices.
It does, and so you actually start thinking about it. So what do you do about India? That's looming over the British. The British aren't caring about it. What are you going to do about feeding the German nation that you've occupied? What are you going to do about sorting out their economic system? What are you going to do about putting people on trial? What are you going to do about sorting out the entire economic system?
Yeah, but as usual, Simon, I've just made a cultural history point and you've come back with some social history facts.
Are we not using facts anymore?
No, we don't believe in facts. Haven't we decided that way back at History Pitch 2?
Is this because you're doing too much work? You've abandoned facts? Were they holding you back?
Yeah, they were holding me back. They weren't letting me fly.
Those damn facts.
Okay, what parting gesture would you like to leave for our listeners? On this topic or on any other?
There's no hope.
That's your parting gesture, okay?
Yeah, to quote Maynard Keynes, let's go back to the 1940s. In the long run, we're all dead. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. It turned into Scrooge after all, ladies and gentlemen. Simon, it's been a pleasure.
It hasn't. It hasn't.
So welcome back. Thank you very much, Simon. It's been lovely. It's tragic that you're going out of my life. But we're back here to the studio now with Ben Bowles. Hello, Ben.
Hello.
Ben's had a difficult morning.
I have a little, yeah.
How do you feel about the Metropolitan line?
I'm not keen currently. The Victoria line wasn't joy either.
Really?
Yeah, no. Transport for London, it's in a state at the moment.
And you know what's most
burning
galling?
rage. What?
When the train is like obviously half an hour delayed, and then that notice comes over the airwaves that goes,
all other lines are running. I know. Yeah.
It was so annoying. I was waiting for half an hour, and they were like, "So there are some minor delays at the district line. No, at the district line, but all other London Underground services are running smoothly." And I was like, "Yeah, right. That's why I've been waiting here."
The word delayed just didn't.
No. Oh, we also have to say hello to Alison Carroll, who's joined us.
Hello,
Alison Carroll.
Hi.
Hello, Alison. Ben, so you're going to tell us about your family history.
Yeah, who do you think you was for the first one today? It's a hard act to follow, really. All of your people going from all over the shop to Australia. But,
You have interesting stories.
I suppose so.
Yeah.
Which side should I go with? Because it's a bit of a mixed.
You've got
bag, really.
gypsies and Jews.
Gypsies and Jews. Yeah, I'm not sure about the gypsies.
That's good.
Really. Yeah. Oh
That's quite a good haul.
It is quite a haul.
So you can sing and you're smart.
This is
very
true.
nice.
Yeah.
And you're funny.
On my dad's side, that's where there may potentially be a Hungarian gypsy, but I'm not sure about that. Nobody's really done any research on that side, but mainly people from Norwich, mainly farmers, mainly drunk farmers from Norwich.
So what's the intersection, the Venn diagram, the place where Norwich farmers, gypsies and Jews overlap? That is you!
No Jews on that side. No, all the Jews on my mum's side.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
we'll ignore my dad's family for now and leave drinking.
They're Norwich farmers.
And then moved down. My granddad on my dad's side was one of 13, I think, but my dad was an only child, which is a bit strange. But yeah, my granddad moved down. I said a couple of podcasts before to when the Nestles factory. Moved to Hayes.
So he moved off the farm.
The farm was gone a couple of generations before that because there's a place still outside Norwich called Bowles's Meadow. So that's where those Bowleses were settled. But I think it was my great granddad or my great granddad This is the family legend anyway.
Yeah.
Found out that he could that having a big orchard and a farm there wasn't actually making very much money. He could make more money by just letting lumber companies just stick their timber there, and he wouldn't have to do anything. So he got like a part-time job at the local outdoor swimming bath at the Lido, and just used to get my granddad to bring him like beer throughout the day, just pints of mild.
Was he responsible for saving people
he
who were
was.
potentially drowning?
But I don't think he ever did much of that.
No,
to be honest
clearly
with you.
not.
There must have been a series of drownings, and then within a couple of generations, and with sort of lots of children and lots of alcoholism, that was all gone. So my granddad was a long-distance lorry driver, and it came down.
And so he settled. He's on.
Settled in Hayes, and my dad went to Hayes Grammar. And, so we've still got some Norwich family on that side.
Okay. Do you go back there?
I haven't been for years and years and years, but there are sort of distant family remaining there, and this land which used to be the family. So on my dad's family, I suppose it was sort of like middle class landowning, but then sort of went all a bit wrong.
And this is the thing that we must remember, right? That social mobility is not just something that people climb up, right?
Yeah.
That one
It's a ladder that you can fall off.
Well, if it's but then, and when. Yes. I'm not sure I believe in social mobility.
Not so much. And then, so my mum's side is. I'm not sure if it's the more interesting side. I'm sure there's lots of fun things to discover, fun secrets on my dad's side. But my mum's side is the more obviously unusual one, because my mum's dad, my paternal grandfather, was a Greek Cypriot immigrant. Artemis has put up massively there. And my mum's mum was from an old Jewish family. So she was Jewish, he was Greek. Yay!
Wow.
Odd couple sitcom.
How did that even work?
Yeah, he came over when he was born in 1914, came to England when he was 17 because he was the second son. So his older brother was to inherit the farm in northern Cyprus. And so he sort of like had one of those join the church, join the army, or go to London sort of choices that second children often had.
So he got not the three.
Yeah, so he
Probably
went for that
good
one.
choice.
Yes, ended up obviously in the army because when he got here, he was only here a few years before the Second World War. And met in East London my nan, who was from a old London Jewish family, of which my uncle Derek has done an awful lot of globetrotting research.
So tell us about them. You have this weird family tree.
I've got a sort of intelligible family tree, unintelligible family tree here, which goes back to the something like this.
Like, this is clearly a family tree done before, who do you think you are, and all the kind of family
it's all got
history
beautiful
sites.
graphics on it. But Derek, my uncle, is writing quite an extensive book on this, really, and he has done an awful lot of work. And this is just sort of a bit of a mock-up of what he's got at the moment. But basically, my grandmother's my grandmother was the Jewish one. Her mother was from a sort of a London anglicised Jewish family, and her father was this guy here.
Yehuda Makansky.
Yeah, who was a Lithuanian Jew apparently, and they're all Eastern European Jews on that.
So
side.
he's the one that migrated.
Yeah. So
First child, Dora Makansky, born in St Peter's Hospital, London.
And
died in St.
born
Peter's
in Russia. So they were born all born in Lithuania and Russia and Eastern Europe, and then moved here. Moved here in the sort of 1850s, probably, which is very interesting stuff. I assumed that side of the family was all sort of an old London Jewish family because they were the Levies, which is sort of an anglicised Jewish name. But no, they're all Makanskys apparently on that side. Which is very interesting.
Do you think that's anglicised at all?
I don't know. I've got no idea. But yeah, so the Mosses, who are an old London family, had the Levies and the Makanskys coming in, and so there's a lot of old Jews there, basically. That's quite interesting.
Jews. Yeah. And they seem to settle where in
all around and about in East London. And it was in East London and North London that my nan and granddad lived. And then when my mum was born, around then they moved to West London. She went to school in Alberton. So,
What did they do when they moved to West London?
my nan was always worked in garment factories.
Mm-hmm.
She was sort of a seamstress. My granddad, after the war, he went into British Airways catering. Well, he was actually he was a barman for a while at some of the rather posh hotels in West London. He was sort of like the Park Lane Hotel and the Savoy and places like that. So he was a barman. Then he went into BA catering, and my mum and dad both worked for BA and developed working there. So it's really a airport family as well.
Yeah. So that's what pulled the kind of
that was one of the big pulls to this sort of area, really. So,
and how did they meet, your mother and father, then?
My mother and father met when my mum was working. They were working for a thing called Shuttle, which was short haul flights out of Terminal. My mum will. No, I'm about to get this wrong. I think Terminal 1. And so they'd fly to Edinburgh and Glasgow and Belfast. And it was the most informal kind of flying, and you can't really imagine how that would work now, because they just used to sort of see how many people turned up at the gate and then put on as many planes as they needed, and then they go around in the plane and just take people's money there like it was a bus. And so my mum's first husband was a purser, which meant that he literally went around and sold.
That's brilliant, right?
Yeah,
because the purser is a term that comes off the ship.
Yeah.
He seats you at dinner.
Oh right, that's interesting. That's cool. Well, my mum's first husband, Ray, was he was a purser on the flight, and we would go and take people's money for it. So you could just literally turn up at the airport and then decide that you wanted to fly to Edinburgh and just get the next flight out, which was amazing. My dad was a dispatcher there. He was youngest dispatcher on the airport.
So what happened? Your mum is married to Ray, and then she meets this strapping young man who's dispatching things.
And
she dispatched Ray. He dispatched Ray.
I don't want to air family dirty laundry on.
Of course not. We love you very much.
So let's not talk about that. But no, see, they.
I just put one and one together.
Yeah, you really did.
Got 5.
So my mum met both of her husbands at the airport. But yeah,
I wonder if Heathrow is this hotbed of activities.
I think that
after the show.
Yeah, let's pop down.
I think that at Shuttle they had a really good time, because they were all kind of young, and it was quite glamorous still flying. Really, back in the late 70s and 80s. Really, it was still quite, nice uniforms and a bit jet setty, and so yeah, I think they all had fun. It was great.
It sounds like.
They met there, same as lots of families around this area. I think that lots of mums and dads met at the airport. Really.
I like this idea.
Yeah. So my mum was ground crew. My dad was a dispatcher, and so he'd actually started working for the airline when he was 15, delivering messages on a bike. And sort of like worked his way up. I was very proud of the fact that he was the youngest dispatcher on the airport. And my mum was ground crew, so sort of check-in and things like that.
Yeah. Cool. And do they still work in this?
Well, my mum became a teacher.
A teacher, yeah, that's right.
My dad, after I was born, he left the airline because he never wanted to go into management, and he sort of got to the point where that would have been the only option for him, and he was a real sort of fight the power.
Yeah.
My dad, it was weird because he was doing quite a middle class job, but stayed very working class throughout his whole life.
Yeah.
My mum was sort of the opposite. She was doing sort of working class jobs, but thought of herself as middle class.
Yeah, interesting that, isn't it?
But my dad never wanted to go into management, so he left and did a few jobs, did some distance driving, like his dad had done, and did some security work and lots of other things that he really didn't like, and then went back to the airline as a baggage handler, which is where he stayed until he died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, your father's dead.
Yeah.
When did he die?
When I was 17, so about 5 or 6 years ago, nearly 6 years ago.
Quite a vulnerable age for a young man.
I was just about to do my A-levels. I don't want to obviously talk about all of the sad things, but that was weird. That was horrible, yeah. But my mum and dad had split up a couple of years before that.
Yeah, but that might make it harder as well.
Which, again, wasn't pleasant. Oh no! All the ouzo now, yeah. Thank you.
You have some Greek roots.
Yeah, my mum's. Thank you. That's another reason why I should get ouzo. My mum's going to be even more worried about this because this is me drinking in the daytime.
But you know what time
it's alcohol less ouzo. It's outside. You've got some other people. It's not lonely drinking.
It's social. It's true.
That's worrying.
So my dad, all in all,
Same with smoking.
between his sort of two careers, though, he worked at the airline. He worked at BA for about 35 years of his life.
He would have got a fat pension.
Well, it was broken up in the middle, really. Unfortunately, by that time, because he had a fantastic pension, then sort of like had a small pension from the second time that he was there. So not so much, but yeah, he was that was his story.
It's a bit of a lost world in a way.
Well, the flying.
Yeah, and that like where you might work for a
it.
company for a long time and then, retire. I know he left in the middle, but that they might build a career with one kind of,
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely, it is, and also these communities which are all focused around something like Heathrow and all of these towns that built up, and everybody works there. As I say, my granddad worked there, and I think that's two grandparents and both parents all worked at the airline. So it's
a bit like a mining town,
yeah, a little bit like that, but sort of like the last time that I can think of where an industry like that popped up and created a centre for the community and people worked there for generations. That's probably like the big birth of commercial air travel was probably the last time that happened, actually.
Yeah. And the irony is that commercial air travel then erodes these same communities because it enables us all to be these moving workers that shift liquid modernity.
Absolutely, things become a lot more mobile then, and it has a hand in its own breakdown.
Right,
and then places like the areas around Heathrow become massive centres of migration because there's where the jobs are, and also that's where people come and settle because then it is hubs of.
But as your parents showed too, if you're cohering around an organisation in a locality, it's a site where people from different backgrounds actually mix and meet, rather than your parents came from pretty different worlds in some way.
Well, yeah, as I say, when my mum decided that she was middle class, she was. She came from West London, not in particularly the best area, and just decided that she was young, she could get a good job at the airline doing something which at the time was quite glamorous, and go to these nice parties, and then got caught up in that sort of first wave of Thatcherism, when people were buying shares and owning homes for the first time. And it must have. Now we know how politically poisonous that whole thing was, but you can kind of look back and think, oh, I understand where that came from. I understand how exciting it must have been for people having that mobility at the time, or what felt like mobility.
Aspirational class, that's what they're called.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Ben, thank you very much. We're going to move from talking about fabulous parties to Alison Carroll.
Hello,
can you swap?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Alison, come into the hot seat.
I'm here so we can move on from fabulous parties
to
something much more mundane.
Continuing the fabulous party. It was juxtaposed in my mind. Who do you want at a fabulous party?
Alison Carroll.
That's what everyone says. Really?
That's why your diary is so booked out.
It is, yeah.
Alison's going to tell us how she met Tamsin. Yeah. Go on, Alison.
To carry on the memorial.
Yeah.
Well, I started to introduce my memories of the first time I met Tamsin. I realised that I sound like a little bit of an obsessive because...
No, you have to say it exactly like you did. Go on.
I have no idea what you're about to say.
What I said when I was asked about the first time I met Tamsin was it was on the 1st of August 2011 at about 10:05 in the morning in Wilfred Brown building.
But I had first seen her half an hour before, and I followed her into the canteen.
She was drinking coffee. I wanted some too.
You were wearing some jeans and a t-shirt and a pair of Converse trainers. And I was like, oh, I've overdressed, I'm wearing a dress. And then we went and we walked around Brunel campus and we went to IT services, which I've never been able to find again.
Yeah.
But I found it with you, so that was...
I think Mark was with us.
No, we went to IT services on our own.
An adventure in Brunel?
We did, it was my first Brunel adventure.
And I was...
And then we...
Did we get into our office?
We met Mark.
We should have done that separately and asked Tamsin before, how did you meet Alison? And then get something like, I don't know, I guess in the office or somewhere.
I've got a better story. In that, we have a mutual friend called Ludovine, who you had worked with in your previous job. And when I found out you got the job, I rang Ludovine. What's this Alison like? What's she like? Tell me.
What did she say?
And she said she's very different to you. But I think you'll really like her.
I have used the word special. Sounds like.
That is such a diplomatic thing for Ludovine to say. If you're listening, Ludovine, I'm very impressed. I don't really associate Ludovine with diplomacy.
Maybe that's not what she said. Maybe that's what Tamsin says.
But what she said to me... I didn't ring her to ask because Tamsin's interview was a week or 10 days before mine. So when I said I've got the Brunel interview, and then she came in, she said, oh, I know someone who's got the other job. She's called Tamsin. You'll love her. She's super vibrant and nice.
Oh, but you're special. So we don't know whether she will like you, but she's vibrant.
Different. Cheers.
You're quiet but deadly. I'm just loud. I think. Yeah.
That wasn't the story I was expecting from you, actually. I was expecting something.
Do you want to tell the story?
Oh, go on.
Okay, so this is
doesn't reflect well on me.
My really memorable first meeting with Tamsin. My memorable experience is about a week into sharing an office together. We were sat and we were talking about something, and I'd snagged a nail, so I was filing it. Tamsin said to me, "I'm sorry, but can you just stop doing that? It is driving me insane." I was like, okay, yes.
And then do you know what Alison did? The first day she got her own office.
I brought in an electronic nail file.
And she painted her nails.
Oh, I did. I painted my nails as well. But I stopped doing that because it smelt for 2 days after. And it was good because it smelled like chemicals, which is better than mouldy tea bags, which is the other alternative. But, yeah, that was my freedom from 151 was nail filing and painting.
Yeah. I'm sorry about that. It's quite rude of me. Ludovine could have said she's totally undiplomatic. But I think we had a good time in 151.
We did. I enjoyed it. I can't think of anyone else I would have liked to have shared an office with. But...
Me neither. Aww.
Is anyone else from the faculty listening to that? You want to be like more diplomatic yourself a bit?
It's fine, Izu's working.
Yay!
No, it was nice. It's like difficult when you start in a new place, and it's good to have a teammate.
Yeah, and I think what was... carry on with the theme of the Tamsin Memorial. What was really good about sharing an office with you is it was really good to have a new colleague who just stripped all of the crap away from everything. And so I always knew exactly where I was with you, but I always knew how you felt about everything. So you know, like sometimes when you start a new job, you're a bit kind of like, ooh, that's a bit weird. I wonder if everyone else thinks that. But there was no wondering. Instantly, I would know what you thought about pretty much everything.
Oh my god. Okay, A, I'm not dying. B, I do actually like some of my colleagues.
Oh no, I'm not talking about you.
Someone's trying to be diplomatic. I mean, you think she's very loud and she says everything she thinks about.
Now everyone's going to think who you hate.
No, I'm not talking about colleagues. I'm talking about processes.
That's right, printers.
Printers.
So is Tamsin happy about her job here?
She loves her job.
As Artemis empties the ouzo into Alison's mouth.
Good luck. It will take more than this. Good challenge.
It's fine. We've got all day.
Why?
I think the main thing is the students, isn't it? The
It is.
students here are
They're fantastic,
they're
aren't
really,
they?
really great.
There's a couple that really annoy me.
I've got this master's.
The whistle goes to Tom, sir. That's mine.
This is master's student from Greece. Oh my god.
So, okay, you guys shared an office. Did you have any situations where it was like an odd roommate sort of TV show type thing?
But we had to put a sock on the hot door.
Any like
Not let the others in.
crazy incidents or anything that ever happened?
Well, Alison was making noise one day. Tamsin was not in a good mood, so Alison ended up in the corridor with all her books. That was unfortunate.
Not really.
I don't think so.
It's the times I butt in on your meetings with your students.
Just occasionally I would suggest something and I could hear Tamsin chuckling to herself in the corner of the room. But it was helpful because I had lots of students who wanted to know things about British archives and British newspapers and things that I hadn't really used. So actually, it wasn't a crazy roommate situation, it was a useful office mate situation. Excuse me.
Excuse me, Dr.
Can you get archive newspapers from there? Actually, it worked quite well because I had like dual supervision.
Yeah. Everyone benefited.
Yeah, I think so.
So how did you benefit?
Oh, because Alison, I learned more about teaching from Alison than from anybody else.
And didn't Alison bring the kettle?
Alison brought the kettle
And the tea bags.
and the tea bags. I provided the biscuits.
And the couch.
And the couch.
Ooh, lucky you.
These people have very strong feelings about my couch.
She
Why'd
didn't
you push it out
clean
of
it.
the tub? What's wrong with this couch? It's
She
fine.
found it on the side of a road somewhere.
There's
She
nothing
didn't
wrong with this.
clean it.
It could have crabs.
Cholera.
It could be on fire. Put a gun on it.
No.
Could have been a junkie's couch.
Yeah.
But it's all dried.
Yeah.
So
You leave it out in
It
the
is
sun
now.
for the whole day.
Not
No.
actually stuff.
I'm just conscious that, we have massively run. I think we're also...
It's fine. It's the last one. It's justified.
It's justified. Well, but, yeah, you might actually have other classes and stuff.
No.
No.
I do have a dissertation meeting.
Yeah.
So I
fine,
should
load them
go.
off.
And we can renew the Radio Love tonight at the History Pitch party. Ethel, are you coming?
Oh, I was thinking the other night, what if for this show, like 1,000 people listen to that, and you say something like this, and then everyone shows up at your home?
They
Like,
don't know her
100
address.
Yeah, they don't know where you live unless they follow you.
What? Come on. That's easy.
0785 383 6956. That's my phone number. I repeat, 0785 383 6596.
We're not.
You call me, I'm giving you the address. Bring some booze. Thank you.
I wonder if you get any phone calls. There are not enough listeners. So, Josie, did you have a thing for today?
No.
Did you have it? We had a beard.
Yeah, we did.
Feel
So,
free to. Oh, thanks, Alison Carroll. Bye, Alison Carroll. Bye, Dr. Carroll.
Bye.
Yay.
I hate my nails. Next time you see I will like
Party.
Okay, so our final beard.
Final beard.
Final beard is Joseph Basil Jett. Basil Jett or Basil Jetty? Forget. Joseph Baz. Right, so he was a civil engineer who worked extensively on the London sewage system. So
In the when?
in the 19th century.
Okay.
So what I'm going to say to you guys, lovely listeners, lovely Ethel, go and Google him right now. I cannot do his beard justification. You just have to look him up. It's fantastic. He seems to lack chin hair, but he's got lovely sort of sideburns that just merge into his moustache and kind of like puff out on the side.
Oh,
So
great. Okay.
it's great. Go Google him. He was a contemporary of Brunel, and Brunel loved his work, so our university namesake loved him. He's approved by Brunel.
Because Brunel didn't do sewers, did he?
No, Brunel did sort of bridges and things.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Moving shit around was quite important in Victorian London.
hugely important, especially when you look at the huge stink of London
Yeah.
in 1858, the stink of London, all of Thames is full of sewage, and it's a hot summer, and it's smelling and stewing, and everyone in Parliament is trying to get stuff done, but they're saying we can't work because it's too smelly. Yeah, so they bring in Joseph, and he designs an awesome sewage system. An absolutely awesome sewage system that lasts till today.
Is it still operative?
Yes, I don't know if it's fully operative, but there are parts that are definitely, they were definitely built in the 19th century. So he had the foresight to build stuff that would last.
There must have been some technical challenges.
Hugely, because this was taking the entire sewage system underground. So huge technical challenges, but what he also did was totally cut down on cholera epidemics because they were obviously linked to sewage filtering into the water supply and spreading contaminants and disease.
So someone like Patrick Joyce talks about sewage in the following way. He says the toilet is one of the most important bits of modern technology because what it does is it brings the intimate functions of the body in intersection with the technological apparatus of the state. Yeah. That then channels your bodily fluids and takes them away.
Yeah, that's right.
And makes them invisible.
Without the state, you can't
shit.
Yeah, those systems won't be there.
Exactly.
So the state is vitally important as much as...
And so it constitutes you and your subjectivity, the way you see yourself.
Yes.
By moving stuff around. This is like...
Now I can see why you're an academic. Honestly. I can see it too.
Talk about shit in the eloquent way.
There used to be this course. It was brilliant. It's called the Consortium, London Consortium. And all the London universities came together and they ran a course, right? And you could do these thematically structured courses. And one was the history of shit. Brilliant.
Wow.
Brilliant.
People are really running out of stuff to talk about.
Man. Look, if the sewage system stopped working, where would we be?
Of course, the sewage system is important. The engineering of the sewage system is important.
In deep shit. But also what it does to us, right? We need to think about these things, not just that this happened on this day. Simon and I had a bit of a fight about cultural versus social history.
Who won?
Me, naturally.
Of course.
Which side were you on?
The cultural history side. It's not just a series of facts, it's also how we know about the past and how the past constitutes us. Artemis has approached the camera.
So, back to the beard of the day.
Joseph. Fine.
So tell us more about him.
Oh, that's pretty much what to say. Oh, he lives forever. He was born in 1819, then he died in 1891.
Oh, that's symmetrical.
Yes, exactly. He lived to a good ripe old age, and he was knighted in 1875. So he was Sir Joseph.
All right, he was a good Victorian.
He was a very
He's a good man to end on.
He is, and his beard is fascinating. Just. I love the beard.
Yeah, but radio is not a visual medium. So speaking of people who die, Artemis, do you have a dumb death?
I have two.
Oh, excellent.
Great.
Dumb ways to die. So many dumb ways to die. Dumb ways to die. So many dumb ways to die.
So Artemis, what's the dumbest death you've got to offer us up on the final?
I've got two very nice deaths today because it's the last show and I'm not very sad, but it's okay. So Polish farmer Krzysztof Asninski, 30 years old, had been drinking.
Oh, God.
Polish man and drinking? No, it must be wrong. So she had been drinking with friends when it was suggesting they strip naked and play some man's game. So they wanted to prove how manly they were. Okay, so initially they hit each other over the head with frozen turnips. But then one man upped the game by seizing a chainsaw and cutting off the end of his foot. That's what men do. The man game. Wait, Asninski was more of a man. So he grabbed the saw and shouting, "Watch this then," in Polish, of course, he swung at his own head and chopped it off. This guy chopped his head off to prove he's Manly. Wow. It's so one of his companions, what he had to comment on that was, it's funny, he said, when he was young, he put on his sister's underwear, but he died like a man. Right?
Wow.
Yay.
Naked.
Wow.
Naked with his head chopped off. Like a true man. Okay, so, and the last dumb way to die in my life, probably I'm never going to do this again,
We have your number.
is actually from the New York Times, so it's true.
Yeah, that's right.
And the best word.
Yeah, that's why I kept it. So, a guest at a party for lifeguards celebrating their first drowning-free swimming season in memory, drowned. So, Jerome Moody was found on the bottom at the deep end of a department pool as the party ended. Mr. Moody, who was 31 years old, was not a lifeguard, but 4 lifeguards were on duty at that party. So he went to a party for lifeguards, and 4 of them were on duty to celebrate a year without drownings, and he drowned. I mean, that's disrespectful.
That's tragic.
He killed the mood.
Yeah.
And what's the moral from this story is when drinking and water are involved, something's gonna suck.
Yeah. Oh gosh, last week.
How long did you take thinking up that line?
Yeah.
You had
I did yesterday.
How long did
Yesterday. Yesterday night, I was just thinking, oh, it's water and water. I should combine that somehow, and then it sucks and they suck, and yeah.
Well done, Artemis. Well done. Well done. So I feel that we are drawing on that note, on that elevated historical note, drawing to a close. It's been really great, guys. I would like to thank you all very much, and I will do this again tonight, for your dedication to history and Artemis's cake.
Yeah. Thanks.
And anthropology. And it's been really fantastic. So thank you very much. And I hope to hear you on the airwaves in days to come. But yay. So the toast that I normally make with the dregs of my ouzo on these occasions is to continuity and change.
Right.
To continuity and change. Yes. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to sign out. Bye-bye. Bye, Ethel.